Before leading the Buffalo Bills to their first AFC championship in 27 years, Josh Allen was just a kid from a small farm town with 0 scholarship offers. We all know him as one of the bright young stars in the NFL right now, but many saw him as a potential huge bust coming out of Wyoming, and I honestly don't blame them for their opinion. Josh went from a junior college player with barely any FBS interest to a big-time NFL prospect at Wyoming in just a couple of years, and in my opinion, his talent was kind of completely wasted by the college football system. He has been great in the NFL, and he was never that impressive at Wyoming, but today we're going to talk about how Josh Allen rose through the ranks, found a way to become a star and get recognized by the NFL, and now be where he is today. But first, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you love college football, give the video a like if you want to support the channel, suggest another player or topic I should take a look at next, and today we're going to talk about why his talent was wasted in his time in college, but that's all coming up after the intro.
I've been having hood dreams, ball player, rap star, Billy been taking BMW, I ain't got no black Harley dog raiders, 2 twin Glocks and make them shake it like a salt shake, ain't make it to the league, but I'm still ballin', I was born for this, never thought I'd see the day when I can make it, should I go legit?
I mean, a small farm is definitely not that uncommon, but his dad owned 3,000 acres of farming with crops such as cotton, cantaloupe, and wheat, and he'd also help out by moving irrigation pipes, picking weeds, and driving tractors. He was a stereotypical farm hardworking kid, and sports were definitely his outlet. He grew up 40 miles from Fresno, so his dream was actually to be a Bulldog at Fresno State. And only one person in the entire town's history had ever had a Division I offer. Josh barely saw any attention from college scouts, and his odds of playing D1 football were not high. Despite throwing for 5,000 yards and 59 touchdowns, his only offer was to walk on to San Diego State, which honestly is not even that bad of a gig. Josh would ultimately reject this offer after the head coach could not guarantee him any playing time. Then he'd have to get clever and use his cousin as a connection. Apparently his cousin was married to the assistant coach at Reedley Junior College, and that was an hour and a half from his hometown, and if he went there, he would have the opportunity to get some Division I offers. It would take Josh 4 games to get the starting job there, and once he got it, he was outstanding. In his first game, he'd rush for 4 touchdowns, and he wouldn't look back the rest of the year. He played in 10 games and threw for 2,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 650 rushing yards, and also had 10 rushing touchdowns on the ground as well. During the 2014 junior college season, he would actually hit a growth spurt as well, and he would grow to 6'5". He would hit the weight room every single day, and he'd work on his mental habits, and all of a sudden, this kid was a beast. Still, he was not getting barely any recruiting attention. He sent out thousands of emails to every FBS coaching staff in the country, and only Eastern Michigan and Wyoming offered him scholarships. Eastern Michigan would later withdraw their scholarship offer, and he would end up going to Wyoming. At the time, Wyoming's offensive coordinator went on a scouting trip, and when he saw Reedley College and what Josh Allen could do, it reminded him of a player that he had eerily recruited to North Dakota State in 2010. His name was Carson Wentz. He noticed they were both small-town guys who had good size and were late physical bloomers. Coach Craig Bohl came to Josh's house and would tell his parents, "My offensive coordinator has been all over the country, and there's only one quarterback we want, and that's your son, and your son is going to be the face of our program." Even after the offer from Wyoming, Josh made one final attempt to get Fresno State to notice him, as they had offered a quarterback who was shorter and lighter than him, but the Bulldogs looked past him, and the rest is history. He committed to play for Wyoming. He said, quote, "I was at a junior college begging teams to give me a scholarship, sending out emails and hoping to hear back from them. I got one opportunity, and that was with the University of Wyoming, and I am so thankful they gave me an opportunity, and I took advantage of it." Josh would get his first start early, as in only his second game at Wyoming against Eastern Michigan, he got to play. Funny enough, they pulled his offer, and those were the 2 schools that had offered him. He would start out hot against that team and actually go 3 for 4, and he was showing how he was a dual threat guy, but after a 28-yard run, he would break his collarbone on the collision. Due to it only being the second game of the year, he was medically redshirted for the rest of the 2015 season, and he had to sit on the sidelines, and he was now hurt. He would come back and say, quote, "He would step back on the field with vengeance. He said he'd step on the field literally trying to embarrass all the other schools, and all the schools that didn't offer him, and he wanted to show those schools why they should have offered him." He would have a breakout year with 3,200 passing yards and 28 touchdowns, along with rushing for 500 yards and 7 scores, and at that point, I could not say he was a bust, and he definitely was a young star in college football. He took Wyoming from a 2-10 squad in 2015 to an 8-6 record in their first bowl game in 5 years, and that was also partially because of the Craig Bohl effect, who had left his head coaching gig at North Dakota State to become the head coach at Wyoming. At that point, he started to get attention from NFL teams, and at one point he told his family he was going to go pro in 2017, and eventually Adam Schefter went as far to say that he'd be the #1 overall pick in the draft. A lot of people were asking how this kid from a small program was all of a sudden the #1 pick, but there were reasons why, and I mean, he was a great player his sophomore year. His head coach was getting a ton of calls, and they were asking him if he would declare, and eventually the GMs would ask head coach Craig Bohl what the decision was, and when he called Josh said he was coming back to play another year. Part of the reason he made his decision was advice from Carson Wentz, who had actually played under Coach Bohl at North Dakota State, and after Carson had finished his rookie year, he said, quote, "You'll be stepping into a locker room with 30-year-old guys, and if you're not mentally ready, it's just going to eat you alive." Josh responded with, quote, "I couldn't picture myself at 20 years old last year going into a locker room after starting only one season of college football and having all those NFL guys look to me, follow me, and even trust me. That's why I decided to go back." Wyoming football had a lot of hype surrounding it just because of Allen, and people would tune into his games just to see his talent. And I mean, he was going to have a spectacular breakout year, or at least that's what I thought would happen. Honestly, he was nothing special his junior year, as he only threw for over 300 yards once and only had more than 3 touchdowns in 2 games all year. I guess you could say he had a decent year, as he threw for 1,800 yards and 16 touchdowns, but he only rushed for 200 yards and 5 scores, and there just wasn't anything super memorable, and he wasn't even close to a Heisman Trophy candidate or anything. He didn't also lead Wyoming on some miracle run, or put on a show, or have one giant good performance. It just all kind of seemed eh. Like, even looking at the Mountain West itself, they had guys like Marcus McMaryion, Ty Ganji, Nick Stevens, Boise State's Brett Ripon, and even Jordan Love was more fun to watch. And I'm not meaning to hate on Josh Allen, but I just didn't think his junior year was that fun or that impressive. You could make an argument that the injury did have an effect, as he was out 2 games, but to be honest, his college year was not that impressive. But what do I know, and what do us college football fans know, because scouts saw something completely different. He was a big-time NFL prospect for potential, but there was one major flaw in his scouting report. It was his accuracy. He only completed 56% of his passes in 2016 and 56% in 2017. That's usually a warning sign for NFL teams who evaluate franchise quarterbacks. Allen said, quote, "He absolutely thought he was the best quarterback in the draft, but he also acknowledged that doesn't mean he thought he'd be the top pick." He said he'd of course love to be the top pick, but he said it'd be ideal for him to develop as a backup behind a veteran starter. He would enter the 2018 draft as one of the top quarterback prospects, and Mel Kiper said that Cleveland should select him. As we know, Baker Mayfield went #1 overall, and the other guys included Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson. Right before the draft, Josh would find himself in some controversy though, as some old text and racist tweets he sent from high school surfaced, and he would have to publicly apologize for the incident. Ultimately, it would not affect his draft stock, and that was just one thing that he made a mistake on back in the day, and the Bills traded up to get him. The Bills would select Josh with the 7th overall pick after trading their 12th overall pick and 2 second-round picks to Tampa Bay. He was the 3rd quarterback selected behind Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and there was a decent amount of hype around him. So far, he has blossomed into the franchise quarterback for Buffalo, and he's already even made it to a Pro Bowl. The Bills blew up this year with him and Stephon Diggs, but the 2020 season ended up in disappointment for Josh and the Bills, and I think the Bills will be a legit Super Bowl contending team next year again. It's crazy how he's gone from playing farm JUCO ball to having 2 offers, which one was pulled, going to Wyoming, having a pretty good year, and then having a pretty meh year and getting drafted in the top 10. These kind of things don't happen all the time, and now I want to address the other part of this video, and that's that I think his talent was wasted. Based on the vibe I've probably given off in this video, you probably think that I'm hating on him, hating on Wyoming, or I just have a negative attitude towards Josh Allen, and that's just not true. I love college football, and I love those players that make you say wow, or make small schools good and put them on the map. Josh Allen was a great player, but unfortunately I think the coaching staff misused his talent tremendously. You gotta give him credit for finding him, but I don't think he was used correctly, and that really showed in the 2017 season. He threw for over 3,000 yards and 28 touchdowns in 2016, pretty good numbers, but he also threw 15 interceptions and was not super accurate. Going into 2017, they should have kept him in the same exact system, helped him work on his footwork, help him work on his accuracy, and help him with his decision making so he wouldn't turn the ball over as much. Instead, seemingly things changed. He didn't have a very impressive year throwing the ball, his accuracy didn't go up, his interceptions did go down, and he just didn't look that impressive. Clearly he was effective as a sophomore, but for some reason he was not put in a major position to succeed and put up big numbers when he returned to school. When he promised Coach Bohl he would come back, you'd think they'd do everything they could to help him be the best player possible and help the team see good results, but Wyoming wasn't that good and he wasn't that good. His accuracy had always been a question, and I wonder how much of a factor play calling had an effect on him while he was there. I've repeated it probably 100 times, so I'm sorry to talk about it again, but I just thought his talent was wasted at his time in Wyoming. Yes, you could also argue it is Mountain West football, but he is someone who is currently carving up NFL defenses with below average NFL wide receivers outside of Stephon Diggs, so he should have been able to carve up a defense full of group of 5 players, and the only reason why he didn't is I have to blame it on the coaching staff. I might be a little too harsh on the coaching staff in Wyoming as a whole, but I really wish we would have seen Josh Allen live up to his potential in college. And so far he's become a star on the Bills, and I just wish that would have translated to his time in college. I am sorry if I repeated myself 100 times in today's video, but that is just the point I wanted to make. Let me know what you guys think. Josh Allen went from a JUCO player with 1 offer to a big-time NFL prospect at a small group of 5 school, and now he is a potential NFL superstar. Stories like that don't happen all the time, as I said earlier, and if you have another great story I should take a look at, please let me know down in the comment section. I would also love to know your thoughts about Josh Allen on the Bills, and if you think his talent was wasted in college. Before you go, be sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos about NFL superstars when they were in college. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.